think there should be a form for people to fill out, but if they don't, for hardship, and we go that route. I think the blanket statement doesn't work anymore.
Well, I think the argument would be that residents pay for the ambulance in the long run through their taxes.
They do.
They do, but you can't sit there and say, we're gonna charge someone else more money than we're gonna charge the rest.
And we can't bill residents' insurance companies unless we have a general policy that we do that. So that's really what we need to ensure that we do, is bill. I would suggest that we might wanna get into the weeds on this after the first of the year, after we get the budget set, because right now we're in the middle of finalizing budgets, but we need to review the policy, and it would be good to have you give us a recommendation of what you'd like to do, maybe with Kelly's input or Cindy's, and a little bit more, a smoother transition.
And I'll elicit some, I'm pretty sure Comstar, our billing company, will come in and chat with us and
Yeah,
you guys to figure out a more concrete policy.
Yeah, I know that it was a hush-hush thing when it was initially done 20-some-odd years ago.
Yeah.
But the only way we can build residents is through their insurance, and we can't do that for non-residents. It's the same. Now, whether we chase them to collect the balance due or the co-pays or whatever, that's a whole nother issue, but we should have a policy in place. Because some will pay and some won't, and how do you know who's what?
But at some point, I think we probably need to involve Sumner on that.
Well, we may, I'm sure we will. We have Sumner in everything, so I'm sure we're going to that too.
I'm sure, I have an email out to Comstar, but I'm sure they've dealt with this.
We're not the only town.
Thousands of towns.
Right,
Right.
right. I would agree.
All right,
Yeah.
so I'll table it and I'll do some
I would-
research
yeah.
next month.
After the first of the year, I think we need to get through the budget season first and then start looking at it at the end of January or so.
Yeah, I would say you have a couple other towns in here, so look them over and see what your recommendation is and bring it back to us that way.
But the simpler the form, the better.
But
Would be good.
I like,
Is that you?
no,
Some little kid on a bicycle. Oh no, it's Glenn answering his phone.
Very sorry.
Usually we charge money for that, don't we?
It's $1.
At least the first round of drinks.
How many clowns on that one?
People can't hear anything at home, but they can probably hear that. And next on the agenda is the 79E committee regarding the Sanborn Seminary project. One or all three if you want to come up, however many. Just
Hi, folks.
preamble of this is this came about because Mr. Chinsberg's plans changed to demolish the science building and rebuild instead of remodel. You're here to tell us what effect you think that has.
In 2-4 time.
Well, basically, the initial plan for Mr. Chingberg was to rehabilitate the building. And so,
The science building.
the science building, right? And so, the hearing was held, granted him certain tax relief on that. And that was the end of the story and was moving forward. But more recently, he's decided to propose demolition of the building and rebuilding it. That winds up creating a different set of requirements under the 79E statute for Mr. Chingberg. What it requires basically is that he should provide to the Board of Selectmen some information prior to, well, first of all, I think it probably means that there should be another application or another rehearing of that project because it is totally different than what it was before. But what it requires of Mr. Chingberg is to present to the Board of Selectmen a form completed by an architectural historian. It's a Division of Historical Resources, individual historic resource inventory form that details the significance of the building and those kinds of things.
Of which building? The science building? Are you kidding me? kiss this goodbye. If you think he's gonna spend architectural drawings on a building that was molding out till forever, you're crazy.
No, it's not an architectural drawing, it's a form, it's an inventory form. And basically the form, you know, would indicate if there was any historical significance to the building, you know, the architecture of the building, probably the size, those kinds of things, photos of the building as it is. And that has to be presented then to the Board of Selectmen. At the same time, the Heritage Commission and the Historic District Commission need to send a letter to the Selectmen outlining, again, any historical significance to the building and whether or not demolishing the building and rebuilding it diminishes, I guess, the historic value of the building.
Or the integrity of the area that it's located.
Right. And so those three things, that Division of Historic Resources form and the letter from the Heritage Commission and the HTC, would need to be presented to the Board of Selectmen before the Selectmen can make issue a public notice for a public hearing and then make any kind of determination as to what kind of tax relief they would be granting for that project itself.
So we need all those letters before we could even post a public hearing?
That would the tax relief can still be granted for the project assuming it passes those hurdles in getting those additional reviews. But
I understand. I understand your frustration, Ally.
I'm not going anywhere near this.
But what I
have
would
nothing to
say is
about it.
the application that he put forward was to renovate both of them. I would be the first one to say I didn't see why anyone would even consider renovating the science wing.
Totally agree.
Okay? And because I don't think they match to each other between that and the seminary. All right, and I think his proposal looks better than it would had he redone the science wing. But for the sake of the application in front of us was for renovating both buildings, and half of that changed. So I don't think I see a problem with him coming back forward. I like his plan, and I don't see the need in saving the science wing because there's nothing historical about the science wing. But the application that was put before us was to renovate both of them, and it changes it. I know, but like I said, I prefer seeing the science wing be gone myself, and I will state that for record. But the application said renovate both.
Yeah, was full of mold.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Doesn't mold or no mold, the
Say
building
to
is.
even consider renovating that,
Yeah.
to be honest with you.
But that's what the application was for. And I mean, at the time, I made a comment that if we'd separated the two buildings, we may not be in this situation now, but that's a good lesson for the future. So I guess the next step is just how do we react? Do we call Mr. Chins or tell him what we're doing?
Yeah, from my perspective, if this was a planning board process, and I deal with process all the time, the clearest thing to do is immediately tell him what we feel his responsibilities are. And these aren't things we're making up. There's literally a section in the statute that says, if you have a qualifying structure and you choose to demolish the qualifying structure, these are the steps you need to take. And I gotta tell you, he's not blind to this requirement.
Right.
He's done these before. He knows the parameters that are involved with this process in particular, and he had to have at some point made the decision that he felt he could accomplish the requirements of the statute if he changed his application. I have to believe that he felt that way, because the one thing that could be, I would assume, time consuming for him is if he had to go out and find a historic resources professional to fill out the inventory form for the Department of Historic Resources. I can't believe he doesn't have somebody either in his office or on retainer that does that work for him. Because again, this isn't something he's unfamiliar with. And that is, from my perspective, the largest stumbling block for him, is just to have that document prepared in a way that meets the standards of the Department of Historic Research.
And getting the additional input from HDC and Heritage Commission shouldn't be a big hurdle.
I wouldn't think so.
And just in case anyone's wondering, and maybe for the record, Susan, you want to note that the section of the statute that's applicable to this is 79-E:4, Roman numeral 4, number 4.
Is that,
Oh,
And I believe that I put that in the letter so that
yeah, I was gonna put on my list.
Yeah, it is.
you'd be able to refer to it if you want. So.
Yeah, I think Glenn's letter is very clear on what the issue really is.
Where's his office? Is it in Newmarket?
Newmarket. In the mill, right there, as you heading north of Somerville.
So where do we go from here?
Don't look at me, I'm done.
What are you asking?
What's our next step?
The next step is to call Eric Chinberg up and tell him what has been
Okay.
decided tonight, and ask him to redo the application accordingly. Send him a copy of Glenn's
Glenn's letter?
Glenn's
Is that
letter.
a motion?
So this letter is not going to him.
No, you really need to have some sort of guidance from the Board of Selectmen since they're the ones dealing with Mr. Chinberg directly.
So if we get this to him, can you two start on your committees, historical and heritage, for getting that letter?
Sure.
I mean, because obviously both groups don't meet for a while, so we'd need to do this as soon as we can.
The Historical District is meeting on December 15th. Mr. Chinberg is going with a revised plan that shows that center building, where the science building would have been, with one less floor, 3 floors instead of the 4, and then maybe an L-shaped or a courtyard shape to break it up so that it's not one long massive building.
But he's also trying to close December 30th on this
Right.
property,
That's
so
correct.
the sooner we get it, I'm sure he's not gonna close until we have all these pieces together.
I'm sure.
So-
Can I just ask the three of you while you're here? I know you can only speak individually, you can't speak for the historic committee or anything else. Are you looking at it the same way that I'm looking at it? This is a formality, okay, that was sidestepped and we're trying to correct. That no one is trying to save the science wing. You'll still have opportunities to discuss architectural plans, but no one is trying to save the science building, are we? It's a straight question.
No, and to be clear, Kevin, it's not something that was sidestepped, it's that the applicant chose to propose the project
Right.
as
No.
being a renovation as opposed
Yep.
to a replacement. Had he come in doing a replacement in the first place, all these steps would have been done and we wouldn't be.
I agree, that's what I said earlier. I just wanna know that none of us are gonna try and do a hiccup with trying to save the science wing. That's what I'm looking
Well,
for.
frankly, I was surprised that was part of the original.
I was too. I said it right
Everybody
along.
was. I think everybody was surprised that it was part,
Yes,
that he would even consider
because
remodeling
that very subject was brought up at the meetings.
all the time,
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, so it's just, it's a technicality just to reapply that shouldn't.
It is, I don't mean to cut you off, Kevin. My concern from the process side is if and when this goes forward, and I certainly hope that it does, I don't think there could be anything more embarrassing than for a resident who is against this program to say, it appears to me in looking at your records that the application completely changed.
Right.
And nothing
Well,
was ever done.
Right.
I think we agreed that's why we're here, is that we found a hiccup and we need to solve it.
Because that would pretty much, I think, destroy the opportunity that the program would ever be used again in the town of Kingston. Because where would the confidence level be that what we were advocating for was a process that was above board? It would just seem like whatever deal you guys are gonna cook, you're gonna cook, and you don't care what the residents say, and you don't even care what you say to the residents by way of what the project's gonna be. And that would be really bad, because it's not, I think that Eric must have taken a hard look at what he could accomplish with the science building.
Right.
And the figures didn't work.
Yep.
And he did, and he couldn't make the numbers
He
work.
couldn't make the numbers work, and I respect that of him. I think I would have preferred he figured that out a little bit earlier, but I know how the real world works. He has a ton of projects going on everywhere.
Right.
When his design team sat down and looked at this in particular, I think they said, look, this doesn't work.
Which is why that building, that separate building came in so big, because he needed to get the number of units to financially justify the cost and investment in the project. I guess I feel frustrated because.
I believe me, I
You know,
was really
it's been a
frustrated
long time
when Ernie called me and said this is what had happened. It was just like, well, that isn't, I haven't
All the
really
things-
worked with Eric before, but that's not what I've heard about Eric. I've heard that he's really very detail oriented and he exactly knows what he wants to accomplish when he goes into something. Because I talked early on with several towns, several planners that he had done projects with in town, and they all gave rave reviews.
I will call him tomorrow, tell him what's going on, tell him we're gonna send him your write-up procedure, and I'm sure he's probably gonna say, I know, but
I absolutely think he's going to say, I know what the law is.
and if you two can start with your committees and
Should be a motion.
doing that, huh?
I don't think it has to be a motion.
Sure it does.
Well, you should have a motion that we
Absolutely.
need to direct.
I make a
the chairman.
motion that the vice chair contact Eric Chinberg and make him aware of this situation.
The change in the
Process to
process
reapply.
for the
Process to
sign.
reapply for the process.
We should send him a legal notice, a legal letter,
Certified.
certified letter, that's what we should be doing,
But
legal.
it would be great if you talked to him.
Yeah, no,
Well,
actually,
yeah,
we should
talk to
talk
him
to
to let him
him
know,
before.
so we're not
Just get this.
blindsided.
Yeah.
And to
No,
also,
we should call him first.
and to also follow the recommendation of the committee, as indicated in this letter.
Right.
November 18th.
Was your motion seconded?
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.
I appreciate you for picking up on it and making it right.
And I do think you are correct. It'd be a shame to lose a project a year from now because we screwed up today.
It absolutely would be.
Just that,
Because in the real world, if this doesn't happen, we know what's gonna happen to those two buildings.
Yeah.
They're just gonna continue down the road to rack and ruin, right?
that's exactly correct. And someone else could come in and bulldoze it and not go more than 35 feet tall, and we won't know what we're gonna get in there. It's exactly correct.
Yeah.
So hopefully it doesn't go that way.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Okay.
So if you're gonna try to get this done before his closing date,
Well, I don't know, we can't worry about his closing date.
We can't, I mean, if he has to shift that out 2 weeks, he'll shift it out 2 weeks.
Correct, it's not the end of the world. The school board will have to,
just concerned about.
I don't think he was ready to break ground in the spring anyway, so I don't think it'll be
I have
bad.
no idea. Do you want me to call the Tom Ambrose at the school? Or
No, we'll call Ginsburg
just
first.
call,
and
okay.
Yeah, if
Let him talk.
Chambers says.
Let him talk to Ambrose.
Okay.
Yeah, if he's
Yeah.
been told this is a drop dead deadline, then
I'd be surprised if
I would be, what's the alternative, right?
Well, it's been drop dead for a year and a half now, so
Well, they've changed it twice,
I don't know.
or at least
That's my
once
point.
anyways.
And if it's for a valid reason, and I think this is a valid reason,
Yeah.
if it needs another month or so, extension on the timeframe, I'd be surprised if they didn't do it.
Me too.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
I bounce back up. Obviously, there's no public here, so liaison report.
Who's here? Brian's here.
Oh,
You're calling for public comment?
yes,
I just,
I didn't know you were gonna be jogging.
I wasn't gonna, but then it popped in my head.
Going to,
What?
nothing.
It was brought to my attention at one of your meetings that somebody had mentioned about saving the fire station, for future use.
Will you show me how to use the bulldozer?
I will.
Thank
We
you.
can go over tomorrow and you.
No, we gotta save the concrete that says Kingston Fire on the top.
We are, that is planned, we're gonna save some bricks for
Yeah.
a future patio there and maybe around Rich's, flagpole stone over there. But I just want to address publicly that, the the building committee, before we went through the process of vetting a new fire station, we actually looked at that building to add on to it, and to bring it up to ADA, NFPA compliance, life safety, building codes, electrical codes, all that stuff would have been well over $1 million. I talked to Dennis Quintel. The site survey was to be done without the building there. That's how we started from the beginning. So for the water retention, that would all have to be revamped and redone and probably added on to for DES. So like I said, I just wanted to, I've heard some rumblings about petition warrant article or whatever, and I just want to make it clear that it was never the building committee's intention to save that building. It's non-historical, it was built in 1948, the original part, so.
And the fact that it would cost over $1 million to retrofit it for use is ridiculous.
That's actually minimal because that was before the new station went there and redoing all the stormwater and everything
Right.
else that had to be done.
Now, you'd have to add sprinklers. The sprinkler system and the cistern we have there doesn't account for that building to be on it, so.
There's also some hazardous materials there.
Yeah, there's asbestos that needs to be abated. The ground around that, we have a signed contract with the demo company already.
How much will we lose if we,
I'm not sure, the total bid, which actually is a pretty good one from, I think it was Danley Demo to demo the building was $28,000. So that's actually a fairly good price. I don't know what they would charge us if we cancel.
How about lot coverage? How about the lot coverage in that? If it,
So same thing, I looked at the plans the other day, and because we're not digging, we're not drilling a new well, we're keeping the same well that we have and just putting a bigger filtration system for PFOAs in it for the new station. You couldn't utilize the current septic system that's at the old station, so you'd have to do a new septic, or we're using just all the utilities would have to be rerouted, revamped, reworked. So
It's not worth it, chief.
no, I would think for lot coverage alone, because when you look at that lot, I think specifically the layout of that was done based upon getting rid of that building.
yes,
Right, it was.
Where that building is now currently is all going to be green space.
Right.
There's a water retention underground system just to the rear of that building towards 146, Lisa. So, that would have to be added on to it. Again, I just wanted to bring it publicly before there was any more question.
I would just say I wouldn't do anything to support, if someone even put forward a petition warrant article to do that. But one grumbling thing that I did hear, which was allegedly a reason someone wanted to save it, was just to have bathrooms
Right.
for the planes. And I would hope maybe, not that that is the answer, a building that's 1 million plus out of compliance, but maybe we can come up with some alternative, whether it is putting a couple of porta potties in the corner or something
Or
else.
possibly building a bathroom station on the plane sometime at the end or something.
I don't
with
think
its
we
own
should
septic.
discount
Are you
what
out of
they-
your mind? I think
No.
a couple of porta potties down the end where the parking zone is done.
I think just something. This isn't the discussion for now, but I think I'd like to at least listen to some alternatives to appease someone.
I'm channeling Phil.
Well, my point is we could build a bathroom facility for a lot less than $1 million.
Exactly correct.
So I think we should at least listen to part of the message and maybe come up with some alternative to
And
prohibit.
porta
some.
potties work just fine. I mean, for the summer months, maybe from Memorial Day to Labor Day, we have a couple porta potties on the
Yeah, but when the ice skating rink is there in the winter, you're gonna have a.
Kevin, don't push your luck right now.
All right,
Anything
my
else?
comment is over, I apologize.
Thank you, Chief.
Liaison reports. Ellie?
I don't know that I should say anything anymore.
Second.
That's not, but then that's not gonna happen. I did talk to Cindy today. I talked to Chuck Hart, who's the budget chair, and Cindy, because I was trying to get a handle on ARPA funds and how we budget. I saw Rich this morning and he said we gotta put the revenue and the expense in the budget. But it's my understanding, when all is said and done, that the ARPA funds don't go into the budget at all. If we know what we're spending on it, those items that are currently in the new proposed budget should come out. and they should be encumbered or whatever, or get a contract that hasn't spent. But we don't even need to do that. It needs to come out of the budget so that, for example, the digitization, we don't have to put that in there. We can expend the 150 that we set aside out of the ARPA funds to do that. Am I correct on that?
That is correct, but
Yeah.
what we said last week was that some people are putting things in their budget that may not be paid for out of those funds.
That's
If we know we're
correct.
gonna pay for them, we'll pull them out.
Okay, and that's what and then maybe next week when we meet with the department heads, we should make that clear. Because we did come up with a list last week of what we wanted the ARPA funds to take care of. Like for example, Tammy's the money counting machine was one, but I don't know if the printer was, I don't remember exactly, but I think to help, it was not, I didn't think it was, but
No.
it,
Neither was money counter.
I don't remember that quite that way, but that's okay, I'm not gonna get into that one. But my point is that if there's something in the budget we know is gonna be covered by ARPA, they need to pull it out, because the budget committee is going nuts over the increase in the amount being requested. So we gotta pull out some of those, if ARPA funds are in there.
Yeah,
we gotta pull it out.
unfortunately, there isn't much in the budget, like, we just signed, or you should have, the PO for the INC software, that can now come out, because that is gonna be paid through ARPA, and when we talked last week, Cam's printer can't be paid by ARPA, but we're gonna buy it with money this year.
Okay.
So that'll come out of the
Okay, so
budget.
that should come out of the budget.
Right.
That's my point. We need to deflate, not deflate, but take some air out of that budget so that it's more.
There's not much, though. The only other thing is Tammy's software is the only other thing. Other than that,
I'm not just picking on her, but I'm talking the total budget, not
no, I
just
know,
the
but
tax
this,
collector.
yeah, no, believe me, I'd like to too, but I don't
It's
think
not just that one area. There's a lot of areas where we've gone up a lot. And we need to try and help the budget committee understand why it is, and then help the voters understand why
Yeah.
it is, and why we're asking for more money this year.
Mhm.
Okay, that's all I'm saying, but
Yeah.
if we can be sure to have that budget on next Monday's roster for the department heads, I think that's important. Okay, and I think that's it. Zoning board will be meeting in December. The zoning board of adjustment.
Oh, is that what the A stands for?
Yes.
Chief, anything?
Yes, have something from conservation here that probably should be non-public because it's gonna be a legal matter.
Okay.
So later.
Budget committee is meeting this Sunday, and then I will have one non-public for recreation.
Okay. I have nothing, so we'll go to old business, scanning and digitizing. Do you wanna talk to Susan, or do you want me to?
Well, I was driving myself crazy trying to understand the records management programs, the software. And I think really, several of them have suggested we should look at a demonstration of what they're gonna do to understand it better before we make a decision. One that you hadn't even necessarily considered was what Block 5 recommended, so kind of back to square one there. So I've got 4 here. I'd like to have at least 3 of them come in. Yes, I can probably get them all to come in next week.
I think you should.
Yeah.
My only concern is the one Block 5 is recommended is like the most expensive one.
I know.
But
So
we wanted to see the difference in what they had to offer, if we
You know,
could
look
see
at
any
it.
kind
If
of
you get a
difference.
demonstration, you'll
It's
get a
just
feel.
demonstration.
Okay.
I want to understand it better, and also I don't know if it's something you would consider or that we should do, but you could split this. The RFP was in 2 parts: the scanning and the records management. I don't know if you want to split that in 2. If you wanted.
I don't think we want to, because we want to
Probably
pay.
easier to have the continuity with the same company, but.
Right.
So, I'm sorry, what are we gonna, we're gonna have them come in at a meeting?
No.
No, we're just
They're gonna come
gonna
into the office and work with
come in the
Susan.
office.
With
and
you
walk-
two?
Maybe
Yeah,
some more
tour.
downstairs,
Yeah.
people
Okay.
will have to use it.
Okay, no, that sounds good.
But one thing we
I'll
wanna
let you
make
know
sure
if
in
you're
the-
available, you can-
And the prices is that it's very confusing reading them, how much of the fees is yearly, how much of it is one time, so we want them to kind of spell that out too.
Okay, that sounds fair.
So then you can compare apples with apples.
Yeah.
Right.
And see what's gonna work for us. Because these prices that we had on the top, that top amount, that's the bid for the scanning and digitizing. That doesn't include the ongoing records management. so we don't know.
Okay,
how
yeah,
much
it's a big
that
difference,
costs.
I
I
guess.
think once you see the system they each have in the software and how easy it is to manage or not,
Right.
as the case may be, that would help determine which one you want.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, exactly.
And we also have a little difference of opinion downstairs between everybody on how we're gonna use this system in the future, and we're hoping they kinda say, well, this is what you're gonna need to do in the future.
Okay.
So, with that, we'll go to board business. There's a sheet in your pamphlet about the revised, sell a townhome property process.
I thought that was good, because the only addition was that we had, application must be received by June 15th. They could put it in any time from now through June 15th. We will consider them after June 15th, and then set up a date in November. I think it makes sense to do it that way.
And didn't we also want, this is for, non-conforming lots, right?
Well, this is for anybody, and there's already line in
No,
there that says they
don't
may
even
be.
go there, Kevin. Let's see what they request.
Okay.
Let's see what they request first.
All right, yeah, that makes
Let's leave
sense.
it open, let's not box ourselves into.
Okay,
It just, it's already in there at the discretion of the board. Certain properties that are non-conforming as building lots may be offered only to abutters, so that leaves it.
okay, all right, I see that, I didn't see that line, okay.
So just trying to, this might be a little clunky, but that's what you wanted in there with the June 15th and November.
Correct. Do you want a motion on this? Are you comfortable, or do you want to wait another week?
I think it's good.
I think it's good.
Okay, I
think
move
we-
that we adopt the sale of town and land policy procedures dated, today, which is November 22nd, 2021.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Next is holiday schedule. I think last year we started closing the day after Thanksgiving. It is not a paid holiday,
But if someone has
but if somebody
vacation,
has vacation and wants to use it, or do it with comp time, or whatever they can. Then there's another note on here that typically we take off the week of Christmas, don't have a meeting,
the week of December 20th.
because of everything in here, all the toys and everything,
Yeah.
so just to make sure we're following all that, is everybody okay with both those?
Okay, in
Yes.
which case we'd have a department head meeting on the 27th in the morning?
That is
Yes.
correct.
Okay,
That gives us time to sign bills and all that, so we don't
Right.
get behind on anything.
right. But then again, if you need to come in to sign manifest, we can still do that.
Yeah, the encumbrances will.
Right, encumbrances, that's right. That Monday's gonna be busy.
Well, we're meeting on the 30th,
Meeting
Well, the
on the
encumbrances.
30th for that.
yeah.
So the 27th is department heads and 30th is
30th is-
encumbrances.
yeah.
Okay.
And that's gonna be a posted meeting, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Something that was handed to Susan from Cindy, Health Trust is returning $54,155.20 that we need to accept in unexpected revenue and anticipated revenue. And some of that will get returned to employees and retirees, but we need to accept the money.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries.
Well, one more thing I wanted to tell you guys that I did. I did talk to Cindy about the budget and ARPA funds and defining it. And I'd asked her when was the last time she had talked to the auditors and how they perceived the funds. And I asked her to contact him and see if they had any new updated information on processing ARPA funds. Okay. She had no information at the finance meeting she had, the conference that she went to for a couple of days. There was nothing on it there. But I asked, just check in with the auditors so that, because she seems to be not very clear about what's considered ARPA. And in my mind, it's pretty clear that if it makes the town more independent and able to function remotely, then that qualifies for ARPA funds.
Remotely and,
And safely, independently of one another, so that's my interpretation, and I thought would be a good idea to see if the auditors are on the same page, or at least the same chapter, if not the same page. Okay, that was it. for me.
It's
Yeah,
in the
there is.
orange.
It
It's
is.
in the orange folder.
Yeah,
It's
that's-
there for your signatures. He needs the letter of support.
There was 2 letters in there,
Two
right?
letters, the support of the town for the project and to name Paul Butler as his representative with the county.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Ready for non-public?
I think so. Who's got paid leave?
Oh, do I
What
move?
about the minutes?
Okay,
We
move
did the
that we
minutes.
approve the minutes from November 15th, both public and non-public.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Guess we'll have a motion to go into non-public.
We had 2 issues, right? A legal issue and a personnel issue.
Personnel issue.
So moved. I don't know what the RSAs are, but
79A, Roman numeral, not there. Yeah, 79A, personnel and legal.
okay.
Yeah, 91A.
Roll call vote,
I
please.
said 79.
You want to roll call?
Freudian.
Alessio?
Yep.
Briggs?
Yes, yes.
This is not here. St. James?
Yes.
And Wilson?
Yes. Thank you for watching. That'll conclude tonight's meeting.
The public portion of that.
Public portion.
Let it be known that we're out early. If Phil's